Welcome to Safer Journeys, a podcast dedicated to raising children, ending violence, and ending oppression. We are your hosts. I'm Melissa, the Community Engagement Director with Safe Journeys, a domestic and sexual violence agency in Illinois.
And I'm Heather, your other co-host. I am a preventionist here at Safe Journeys. I want to give y'all a quick trigger warning. We will be discussing a little bit of sexual and domestic violence in this episode, as we often do. So be sure to take care of yourself and quit listening. Go do something nice for yourself if you need to. No big deal. And our topic content for today is going to be what LGBTQ youth are facing, what the current climate is for our young kids who identify as an LGBTQ+.
That's right. And so we are in October, LGBTQ plus History Month. And so I wanted to kind of just go over from the Human Rights Campaign. They have put out the numbers as of May of 2023 of the anti-trans and anti-LGBTQ bills that were introduced just this past legislative season.
Yeah.
So it was a record high, and over 520 bills were introduced at the state level. And
that were anti-LGBTQ.
Right.
Plus.
And to be more specific about which ones were
anti-trans,
over 220 were anti-trans. So almost half were.
Yeah.
70 of those have actually been enacted. So these kinds of bills are things that are like banning gender-affirming care, allowing for discrimination, allowing misgendering. And when we say it like that, we're saying they are saying they're not going to follow the lead of the child when they're saying what gender they are. They're going to use what gender they're appearing to be and what it says on their birth certificate. So there were also bills against drag show restrictions and then curriculum censoring, forcing trans and non-binary children and adolescents to use the bathroom and play sports based on their sex assigned at birth, not their gender identity. And I just want to go back to the banning gender-affirming care. I just can't handle that because everybody should be able to access health care equally, and like health care according to their needs as a person. And this is basically saying they can't.
Yeah. And as a public health person, I don't want to say, I don't know. I never know how to say that. But as someone who has a public health degree, how about that?
Yeah.
Healthcare should really be holistic and individualized because every human body and brain is different. This goes against that.
Yeah.
And I realize, like, that's also a dream. Like, I know that is not really how it is, but it's how it's supposed to be.
Right.
What you need is what you're supposed to be given. It is care, and banning gender affirming care is not providing health care.
No,
in the ways that a child needs. This particular child would.
And this actually puts them at more risk for victimization, because it makes them more vulnerable. They're not receiving the care they need.
They're not receiving the care they need. In fact, they're being told they're not allowed.
Right.
To get the
because
care
something
that
is inherently wrong with them.
Right. There's something wrong with you, and the thing that you feel like you need makes you weird. And we know better.
Yeah. Yeah, we know better than you about
that's
your
the power
body.
Situation, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
Because they have the power to have control over bodies.
And what care you receive.
Which blows my mind. Because that should be between the medical professional,
absolutely,
and the person who's has the body.
Yes, I would. Man, I could have a whole season on this alone, but
it hurts my heart.
It does. It absolutely hurts my heart, particularly. And I know we're going to talk about this a little bit more, but with the gender affirming care, I think there's a lot of misinformation, which is funny. It's actually what we're going to go to talk about next. But there's a lot of misinformation about what gender affirming care might look like.
Yeah.
So in its, simplest, it could be having a medical form that allows you to put down the pronouns you use, that allows you to use your chosen name. If say you're trans or non-binary and you go by a different name than what you were given at birth or on your birth certificate, like that could in itself just be gender affirming care. It doesn't mean we're putting hormones and having surgeries. Like, yes, those are part of it, but those are much higher level aspects. That's just not what it is across the board.
Yeah, and I don't want to go on a tangent because I know we're going to address this in future episodes. However, I wanted to just say, do you know how life-giving it is for somebody to be called by their chosen name than their dead name? That is re-traumatizing them all the time. Mm-hmm. And it is almost like it is an act of violence. It can be used as a tool of abuse.
Oh, I've watched it happen.
To be called your dead name.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's because they know it hurts you.
Yeah.
They're doing, I mean, and to be fair, there's a difference between doing it on purpose to hurt and like just getting used to it. And and we're going to talk about that later, but like quickly, if you legitimately and you go, oh, sorry, I meant blah, blah, blah. Great. Then you're not being that person who is using it to hurt someone. You made a mistake. Right. You corrected. You're going to do better in the future.
Yep. And we'll talk more about that in future episodes.
Absolutely.
For sure.
And then, Melissa, are there any particular areas of the country that are really affected by some of these anti-trans or anti-LGBTQ bills?
I'm going to say it's from north to south. You got North Dakota, Tennessee, Florida, and Texas.
Okay.
Where these states are enacting the most laws against LGBTQ plus people. And that means it's more unsafe. Mm-hmm. And, you know, when we think about characteristics of relationships, whether it's unhealthy or unsafe, and like unhealthy, you haven't quite crossed the boundary into unsafe yet, but you're watching it. Yeah. And these places I feel like are at this point unsafe.
I feel like I truly don't I shouldn't even say this out loud on a recorded podcast. I feel like there are some states now that HRC or Human Rights Campaign is saying are unsafe. I don't remember exactly which ones they are. I have some suspicions, but I'm not going to give you inaccurate information if I'm wrong. Right. But I think they have said there are particular states that just don't go.
Right. Yeah.
And there's a whole part of a country you can't go to because of who you are. That's messed up. Especially say it's Florida. Disneyland or Disney World is in Florida, right?
Yeah.
Even though, to be fair, Disney is pretty pro LGBTQ.
At this point, yes.
But the state of Florida is not.
Right.
So if you were on Disney property the whole time, probably okay. But if you were going to, go to Jacksonville or wherever else you might go, and not calling out Jacksonville, I was just thinking of another city within Florida. So yeah. You have to consider where you're going on if you're going to be safe or not.
That is very true. That's the same for faith communities as well. There are actual websites and lists out there of safe places that are welcoming and affirming.
Yeah, that's wild to me.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the things that I think really upholds oppression or creates oppression or supports oppression is propaganda. And I don't think people often use the word propaganda when they're talking about misinformation, but misinformation is propaganda.
Yes.
Someone created these false statements to cause fear, to inspire action, and to hurt people, essentially.
Yeah.
So there are two particular pieces of misinformation that the anti-LGBTQ people use. One is using the term grooming. As preventionists of child sexual abuse and sexual abuse as a whole, this one really gets us riled up because they are using grooming in a way that it is not that is just not what grooming is. So let me give you a quick little what is grooming. You could also listen to the 2 hours worth of discussion.
Episodes 5 and 6 of season 1.
There you go. If you want more information on grooming. But grooming is building trust, strategically, with a child or their family or their community members to essentially abuse them in the future. And it's going to be through a variety of techniques. It's going to be over a long period of time. It could be coercion. It could be force. But you kind of brainwash and manipulate everyone involved with around the person you're going to abuse until you get them all to like the same level where you can abuse the child and nobody's going to ask questions. So that's what grooming is. When they say that people or LGBTQ folks are grooming our children, they're not grooming children to experience abuse at a higher rate or any different rate than straight people, than cisgendered people. LGBTQ plus people are not committing more harm to anyone or children at a rate higher than cisgendered straight people. I think it's really important that you know that. There is not a single statistic out there that says LGBTQ plus people are hurting children.
Correct. And actually, it's LGBTQ plus people, both youth and adults, who are experiencing higher rates of sexual violence than straight peers.
Yeah.
LGBTQ youth are nearly 4 times as likely to experience child sexual abuse than their straight peers. And then LGBTQ plus adults are 2 to 3 times more likely to experience sexual violence than straight adults.
Yeah, if not more. Because with statistics, we can only do what's been reported.
Absolutely. And I feel like, too, we need to say that using terms like grooming, and I know you haven't gotten into the next term yet, but using terms for this purpose of spreading misinformation to create fear is actually distracting from the actual signs of grooming that people need to be looking for. Like, this is an actual issue, and they are completely distracting from the actual problem.
No, they for sure are. It's like, say an entire house is burning down, and you're like, actually, there's a little garbage fire that's really more important. And we need to like divert all of our resources there. Like, maybe that's not the best example, but the point is you're creating a diversion. So we all want to keep kids safe.
Absolutely, yeah.
Everyone. Well, except child predators, of course.
Sure.
But we don't count them.
No.
So we all want to keep kids safe, including LGBTQ plus people. And truly, I don't have data to support this, but I think LGBTQ plus people have more stake in keeping kids safe, because a lot of these individuals as young people have experienced harm because of their gender or sexual identities. Mm-hmm. So I think they have that perspective. They understand what it's like to be harmed and want to help any child feel safe. Mm-hmm. So I can't say it enough. LGBTQ plus people are not grooming children to like create harm. They are not coercing children to be gay if they are not already gay. It doesn't work that way.
No.
I have a lot of gay friends. I'm straight. They did not groom me or coerce me into being gay. It doesn't work that way. This is absolutely misinformation. It is harming the LGBTQ plus community, and it is harming kids as a whole, because we are now not paying attention to what grooming actually is. So children are going to be exploited and harmed by child predators because we're looking at the wrong thing.
Right. And because of the way individuals and schools and organizations like the medical field or the policymakers, and then our society with our norms, like, they are the ones enacting harm on LGBTQ youth and adults by not providing the care and everything and the support they need. And so that is what's putting them at higher risk for, I wanted to make sure I said it that way.
Yeah, no, totally.
Higher risk for victimization of different types of abuse. And I don't know exactly where I was going to go with that after that, but I just wanted to make sure I said it that way, because again, it's not their fault that they are more vulnerable.
No.
Because of their gender identity or sexual orientations. It's because of the way people treat them because of their gender identities and sexual orientations.
Exactly. And like secondary, not quite as often, but still happens. People are using the word pedophile as well, saying that, gay people are pedophiles. I think I've heard it mostly about drag queens. Like they've been calling drag queens pedophiles. Oh my gosh. Like you couldn't have got it more wrong, really. It shows to me how little these individuals actually know about the LGBTQ plus community. And they're like stoking fear.
Yeah. Again, the misinformation.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So again, there aren't, LGBTQ plus people are not more likely to be a pedophile than a straight person.
Yeah.
They're not.
Same as the grooming.
Same thing. And now you're distracting again from the tactics maybe that an actual pedophile would use to harm a child.
Right.
Right?
Right. Yep. And again, putting yourself in the shoes of what an LGBTQ plus youth would be facing today. Now at school, only 25% say that they have always felt safe at school. And only 5% said that all of their school staff were supportive. That is really sad. And we do know that it makes a difference in the lives of LGBTQ plus young people for an adult to be supportive, even just one.
In
one
any
adult
child's
makes a
life,
difference.
too.
Yes, and not just kids with higher vulnerabilities. But and another thing about LGBTQ youth, like they are coming out most often to their friends and classmates because these are the peers they see every day who they're growing up with.
I think there's some generational differences as well. I was going to do a funny podcast on the way here that said Gen Z is gayer than ever. I thought that was hilarious. And what the point was that the data is showing people are more willing to say that they're, a member of the LGBTQ plus community. So like, I can't remember what it was, but like 30% of Gen Z will identify as like some part of LGBTQIA plus. Versus the boomers who like 9% would identify.
Right.
Are there differences in who actually is? I don't know. I think they're just not as comfortable with saying it as they are now. And you can see that because Gen Z is more willing to other Gen Z to disclose or to come out versus to millennials or boomers or Gen Xers.
Their access to information and being able to explore, I think, has made such a difference because especially the LGBTQ youth that we have spoken with in listening sessions, they had so many nuances to their coming out story or how they're handling things or their research of their experiences. Like they're able to match what they're experiencing to maybe what somebody else has written about and find all of these complexities and nuances that I can tell you, like, as a millennial, I wasn't able to tease out much at all.
No, and like we had it better than boomers, right?
Yeah.
Like every generation, it seems like there is more acceptance, more information, but like we are still nowhere near where we need to be.
No, we're still steeped in, propaganda getting into our policies.
Yeah, into our schools.
Yeah, which is really impacting our young people and how they're able to find support.
When it comes particularly to trans and non-binary youth and students, I have a whole lot of feelings about their comfort and ability to use the bathroom.
Yeah.
Like kids shouldn't have to have so much stress about using the toilet. So from Human Rights again, about half of trans students in this study that they did said they never get to use the bathroom that aligns with their gender identity. So to illustrate that, a trans boy student who was assigned female at birth is using the women's bathroom. So every time that student enters the women's bathroom, they're reminded that their identity is being invalidated.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and you got to go to the bathroom, right? Like,
Yeah.
So now you're associating going to the bathroom with like this invalidation of your identity, which I imagine could cause a lot of problems with your health.
And mentally and physically.
Yeah. So the reason, there are a couple of reasons that the students said that they don't get to or never use the bathroom that identifies or aligns with their gender is they don't feel safe in the bathroom, which like, I want to tell you, the people who are not safe in bathrooms are not the straight cisgendered people.
Correct.
Those are usually the people committing the harm. I saw there's like more politicians have hurt or harmed people in bathrooms. Like this was a legit study. I don't remember where it was, but I can find it and link it to our show notes.
Oh, please do.
That more politicians have caused harm to others in bathrooms than any like LGBTQ plus folks that they could find in like police reports. I was like, it doesn't surprise me. But
distraction.
Yeah, sorry. So they don't feel safe. They may not know if they're allowed to, which is something to consider. And they also may not feel comfortable being out about their sexual orientation or particularly for trans students, their gender identity. So like they can't even ask to use the bathroom that aligns with their gender identity because they can't even share that they're trans or that their gender identity is fluid or whatever that may be.
Right.
The other piece of that, like why they're not using the bathroom that aligns with their gender, is that a lot of them will say they just won't use the bathroom at school.
Mm-hmm.
Or again, they're using the one that doesn't align with their gender identity, but like, you're not using the bathroom at school? If you're at school from 7:45 a.m. to 2:45, you should really be taking fluids in to the point where you're using the bathroom, right?
Mm-hmm.
And students are not going to learn if they are holding it, having anxiety about holding it, having anxiety about the bathroom. If they're dehydrating themselves, which is a strategy that I have read about that trans individuals will use, is they'll purposefully dehydrate themselves prior to going to a location where they're not sure about the bathroom situation. So there's a lot of things that could happen, right? You could pass out. You're not going to retain your information that you're trying to learn. Like there's just so many negative consequences that stem from students not feeling able to use the toilet. And that's on us. That's on the educators. That's on the administration. That's on the school boards. That's their fault. The school board and all of those individuals. You're causing kids bathroom anxiety. Cool.
And again, that is impacting their education. That is impacting their ability to learn, take in information, take those standardized tests, and their future, because then, their experience in the classroom is shaping how they see themselves learning and functioning in our society. Mm-hmm. And that is completely unfair.
Yeah.
Like we are not setting them up for success by not allowing them to use the bathroom that they identify with, or just give them a bathroom that is just a toilet. It is a toilet.
Okay. In a lot of Europe, not all of it, and even in Canada too, they have all gender bathrooms. The difference is floor to ceiling. So like your bathroom stall is floor to ceiling.
Yes.
Sometimes they'll have a little sink in there as well, but you still feel super private. You still feel like you're in your own little bathroom, and like anybody of any gender can go in there. At most, you're like washing your hands alongside other individuals, right? So like, okay, who cares? You're just washing your hands, right?
Yeah.
So I don't understand why we're not trying to make that transition here. I know in Illinois, we recently were some legislation was passed that you're allowed to do that. Apparently, you weren't even allowed to do all gender bathrooms like that before.
Oh.
But recently, some legislation passed that you can. I know where I work at, or the college that I'm at, there's been discussions about it. And like there's construction or structural problems with doing that there. So I suspect that's probably the case in other places, but like we can fix this. There are solutions.
Yes. And it's been proven.
I've personally seen it. I have used a toilet next to a man in an all gender bathroom and I'm okay.
Oh my gosh.
I know.
I am so glad.
We washed our hands next to each other, Melissa.
It's really not that intimate to do that.
It is not at all. It's fine.
I hope you can hear how tongue-in-cheek we are right now.
Yeah, I know.
We can get very sarcastic when we have big feelings.
You're right.
But all of this data, like we have said, it is from the Human Rights Campaign and a University of Connecticut LGBTQ plus youth survey from 2018. Now, our climate is a bit different than it was in 2018. And so I just want to say, again, these numbers are the ones that have been reported. And these numbers are about 5 years old at this point.
Yeah, they're prior to COVID.
Yeah. So they're going to probably be higher because we've been through a pandemic.
Yeah, COVID really screwed everything up in a negative way.
Yeah.
So that report Melissa's talking about is actually what we're going to have as our media that we love for a couple of reasons. One, of course, the data in it is amazing. However, I read a lot of reports. Reading this report was a joy. It is beautiful. They have great illustrations, great infographics. It doesn't feel like you're reading this like super boring report. It feels more like you're like reading a graphic novel or something that happens to have some data and statistics in it.
Oh, that's wonderful.
I know. When I opened it up, I was like, I think I like vocalized like, oh, how nice or how pretty or something like, because they're usually very boring. And figure number 2.3, you know, like it's sad. So that survey was done for LGBTQ youth that were 13 to 17 years old, and they surveyed 12,000 students from all 50 states. And I think we're gonna for sure link that in our show notes. And you can see this for yourself. It is, of course, a free resource, as most things are with the HRC campaign.
Yes. So our next episode that we're going to be doing is part 2 of talking about LGBTQ plus youth and mental health and its impact, the impact of violence on mental health, specifically for LGBTQ plus youth. So we thank you so much for listening today. Keep listening for resources, and we look forward to talking with you soon.
Look out for new podcasts every other Monday on anywhere that you can find your podcasts. Spotify, Apple, Stitcher, Anchor FM, you name it. We're there. If you have any questions, and we would love to hear from you, you can email us at saferjourneyspod@safejourneysillinois.org. You can also message us on social media. We have a Facebook and an Instagram that you can find us at. And let's talk about some resources for anyone who's experiencing abuse. If you happen to live in and around LaSalle or Livingston County in Illinois, please feel free to call Safe Journeys support line at 815-673-1555. 24/7, confidential, services are free. If you don't happen to be in our area, there are 2 national hotlines that you can call for support. For sexual violence, you can call RAIN with 2 N's. That's the National